Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So I am on today to share with you this lovely card that I have made for NBEADS. So they sent me a pack. If you saw earlier last week, I did a video of a haul of all the lovely things that they sent me. And in that haul was this little poppy die. So I've been having a little play with it, and I created this really pretty, it's quite sort of simple and elegant in its design, but there are quite a few steps involved in creating it, or there were for me. So I thought I would do a quick sort of craft with me tutorial type thing, and I'd show you how I created this. So I have stamped on the inside as well. So to do it, I have done a little bit of prepping ahead of time. Just so that you're not here for hours and hours. I have cut some bits of card. So I've got a card base that is 15 centimetres by, I think it's 9 centimetres. Is it 9 centimetres or is it 10 centimetres? 15 by 10, this one is. Now these were actually, I've just gone for that size because I got a whole pack of these lovely, slightly textured cards, longer ones, that I got from a local scrap reuse store. My friend Tracy Susan, she sent me the link for this scrap reuse store because she's got one down near her, and she was saying how great they were. So I went along to have a look and check it out, and I got some really good things. And I picked up this whole pack of these folded cards for 50p. And like I said, I thought they were really nice because they got a little bit of texture to them. They've got like a pinstripe running through them. So I cut that down. I saved the bit that I cut off the bottom to create the back panels. So I just took the bit that was off the bottom, cut one half off, and I'm using that as the poppy. And then I've cut the other piece just big enough to fit my sentiment onto, and obviously that would just depend on what sentiment you were using. I've also cut some paper to go on the back of the card. Now this is actually some jelly print that I have created. You could just cut this step out altogether, and you could just use some patterned paper from a scrapbook pad. I just happen to really enjoy jelly printing. When I can't really think of anything crafty that I really want to do, quite often I'll just get the jelly plate out and I'll just play. And I've got a whole box full of jelly print cardstock that I have created. So I am using a piece of that. And that is 14 by 9. And then I cut a black mat, which is 14.5 by 9.5. So there'll just be a little thin black line around the edge of the cardstock. And then obviously that will all mount on top of the white card. I have cut out my poppy. Now for mine, I cut them out twice because I like to have 2 leaves and 2 poppy heads. Obviously you don't have to, you can do it any way you like. That's just how I happen to like mine. So I'll show you how I colour these ones up, but I've already got some created because I have already been playing. So we will use that one, and we will use that one. So to colour them, just find something so that I don't get marker all over although my desk is already really mucky because I haven't properly cleaned up yet. So all I'm going to do is put my little cardstock pieces on something that doesn't matter if it gets mucky. So obviously I've just got this, which is just a scrap of an old cardboard box, and I use that for colouring up. I've just got some red markers. Obviously you want a slightly lighter one and a slightly darker one. So I'll start with my darker one, and all I'm doing is in the centre of my poppy, I'm just pulling it out a little bit into the leaves and just putting a little bit of that darker pen in there. And then with the lighter one, with the chisel tip, I'm just going over the top of that and pulling that red ink all the way out, like so. I have done mine on the back just because on this bottom flower, I've almost done it as a sort of bud just opening up. So so it is sort of slightly folded, so you do see the underside of the petals on those. Now, I haven't gone bonkers with them. I literally have just, you know, given it a coat of the lighter red, just so that, you know, should you see the underside of it, it's not going to be white. And I'm going to just let that dry. Now I've got my black stamen that goes in the centre, and for that you just want any old black marker. I've just got this cheap one that's from Tiger, because my alcohol pen, actually my Spectrum Noir black, has actually run out, so I just picked this up from Tiger. I pick them up from the range or wherever. Sharpies, black Sharpies, that sort of thing. It's fine. It's just to get it coated, and it just saves you having to cut it all out of a million different cardstocks. So that's that one. And then I've got my greenery. So for this, I've got a few different greens. So I'll start off with the lighter one, and I am just going with the chisel tip, and I'm just literally giving everything a good dousing in the green pen all the way up. Same with the leaf, like so. Then I've got a darker one, and just catching just sort of elements of it, just sort of down the one side, a little bit on that leaf, and just down the centre there. And then I'll just go back over it. You can see I'm not being, you know, I'm not being particular about it, because when you go over it with the lighter marker, it sort of bleeds and blends a lot of the colour out anyway. It just adds a little bit of depth here and there. Like that. There we go. So that is that. Then I have got, I've just put my black marker, can't see it. I put a little bit of black just on the very top of this poppy head, like so. And then I did go over the base of the head bit with a little bit of a brown marker, like that. So we're nearly done with the colouring. So it's quite quick, and like I say, it's a bit rough and ready, but that's fine, because you're going to add some shape and stuff to this anyway. So I've got a little bit of aged mahogany, and I'm just going to flick around the edge of all of the poppy petals. And obviously with the other ones, I just sort of did it assembly style. I did all the poppy heads, and then, you know, all the bases, etc, etc. There we go. Then I've got a little bit of peeled paint, and any green would do. And again, I'm just giving it a little bit of ink, just to add a bit of variety more than anything, because, you know, the flowers and petals and leaves and things in our gardens would not be just a flat colour. They would obviously, you know, they'd have all different tones to them. And then I got my, if I can see it, my mess is horrendous. The desk is just a mountain of stuff, so finding anything is a challenge in itself at the moment. So this is anti-gliding, but this is the Distress Oxide, and I've just got a makeup sponge, and I'm just dabbing over the top of that poppy head just to knock that black back a little bit. There we go, and that's that. So that's all the colouring that I'm going to do. So I'm ready to actually get started. So The next step is going to be doing a little bit of shaping on the flowers. And to do that, you're going to need something to shape on. So I've got my flower shaping mat, which is a bit grubby, but it does the job. But you could just use a piece of, you know, a nice thick piece of foam, like fun foam type stuff. You just want something that's got a bit of give to it, really. I've got my tools, so these are, that's one for doing fondant pastry. I got a whole set for about £2.5–3 from AliExpress, and this is nail dotting tools that I picked up from the pound shop. You get a set of 4 for £1. So all I'm going to do is take my red piece first, and with the larger of the ball styluses, I'm just going to rub around the edge of those petals like so, just to give it a little bit of shape, like so. And then I'm going to flip it over and flick over to the slightly smaller ball, and I'm just going to run around the whole there, and that just gives it that fantastic bit of lift, and it just brings it to life. So that's that. For the stamen, all I'm going to do with that is right side up. I'm just going to start with the bigger one and roll it round, move to the slightly smaller one and just roll it round in a circle, and again just give it a bit of life and make that whole thing cup up. That can then get stuck into the centre of your poppy, and that just gives it a little bit of time then to dry. I tend to find that if you glue around the hole here rather than onto the actual stamen, you don't end up with quite so much glue splurging out everywhere. And if you're anything like me, you always overestimate the amount of glue that you actually need. There we go. So I'm going to set that off to one side now to dry while we carry on with the rest of it. So then we've got this green bit. Now obviously I haven't coloured the back of this because you won't see it, it'll be stuck down. And all I'm going to do to this, I don't want to give this too much because I want a lot of it to stay reasonably flat. But I do want this seed head at the top here just to have a little bit of shape. So again, all I'm doing is little round circular movements into the bits that I want to have a little bit of shape. So I do want this bit here. Now on the sample, this bit has been coloured as a bit of a red sort of poppy bud, but I decided to use it as the greenery that the poppy head is coming out of, the flower is coming out of. So I coloured mine in green. And then I've got the leaf, and like I say, I did cut 2 because I wanted 2 poppy heads and 2 leaves on my card, so I just cut it twice and coloured 2 lots in. So there we go, just pushing down on that in various places, pop it back over and push down on it again, and it just gives it a little bit of movement and a little bit of texture. We'll do the same to the other one because I haven't done that one yet. So we're just giving that a little bit of, I don't want to give it loads, but I do just want to give it enough so that it doesn't look really, really flat. So that's those done. We can set them off to the side. So next I want to work on my background piece. Now I wanted to just zhuzh mine up a little bit. I'm sending these cards out to my grandmas. So I'm sure, like a lot of other people, I've actually still got 3 grandmas, and they are all in residential care at the moment, and we can't see any of them. So I am trying to remember to send little things in the post just to raise their spirits. So I thought a little bit of glitz and glamour would cheer them up. So to do that, I've got my my jelly print, which has actually got a little bit of pearlescent paint in the jelly print, so there is a little bit of sparkle and shine, but I wanted to go a step further. So I've got some of this blue glue. This is the Zig 2-way glue. Now I've got mine in this little bottle because I had one of the smaller pens and the nib on it stopped working, so I just took it off and drained the contents into one of these little bottles, because it is really useful glue. When you first put it on and it's blue, if you stick anything to it then, it makes like a permanent adhesion. If you just leave it a few seconds, it'll go tacky, and that's perfect for applying things like foils, and that's what I'm going to do with this one. So as you can see, I've put a very small amount in this tray, and I've got a it's a synthetic natural sponge, but it's got the open texture of a natural sponge. And I'm just getting the glue all over the various elements of this, and I'm just really randomly, heavier in some places, harder in some places. I don't want too much because I don't want the whole thing to be covered, but I want enough to get some glitz and glam on here. So because it's a really thin layer, I'm just going to shake it off to one side and it'll go tacky almost immediately. There we go. I've got these Cosmic Shimmer Gilding Flakes. This is the Harvest Moon colour. I picked mine up in a charity shop for £1, and I really love them. They are messy, that is the only thing. You do create one heck of a lot of mess with these, but I love the effect that these give, particularly these ones, because they've got lots of different colours and they're quite sort of autumnally looking colours. There's coppers and bronzes, and there's even a little bit of a sort of olivey green colour and golds and all sorts in here. So all I'm going to do is, with a reasonably stiff paintbrush, you can use a stenciling brush if you've got a stenciling brush, I'm going to dip it into the gilding flakes, and then I just start to scrub that in. You can take a little pinch and sprinkle them about and just rub them all over, sort of circular motions. Oops, bash the camera while you do it, and give them a really good scrub into your card. Now obviously if you do it and you think that's not enough, I wanted it to be more than that, you can always add some more in. It's much harder to take it off. So I would suggest that always start quite light, and if you sort of think there's a bit of an area where you'd like a little bit more, just go back in and put a little bit more of the glue down, and then go in again with your gilding flakes and rub them in like so. And you can just keep doing that as much as you want until you're happy with it. Now, I don't want tons and tons because this is going to be my background, and I have got more sparkly sort of stuff on the sentiment as well. So I'm going to gather up what I can because I really love this stuff, so I don't want to waste any of it. So I do try and put back as much as I can. I have got a Swiffer cloth off to the side and like an anti-static cloth, because I'm not that good. I'm not going to scrape up every single speck and crumb of it. I'm just, what I can get up. And now that I've done that, I'm going to give that, now everything's out of the way, I'm going to give it a really good going over with my stiff brush, and that'll burnish everything down in, and it just brings up the luster and the shine on the foil that you've got there. And you can see that we've got a gorgeous bit of foiling on that card now, and I'm really happy with that. Now, while we've got the gilding flakes out, the other thing that I did was I gilded the sentiment. Now, rather than trying to gild that tiny little sentiment, I decided to gild a piece of card and just die cut the piece of card. Now, if you've got some double-sided, the tape, the sheets, the A4 sheets of tape, that's the best thing. Just put some of that down and rub your gilding flakes into that. Or if you've got the wide rolls of tape that would be wide enough for your die to go on. I don't have any tape that's that wide, and if you do, you can do it with a couple of 2 or 3 layers of normal width tape, but you will see the line. So where you put your tape and then you put your next bit, you've got to really make sure you get that lined up, otherwise you can have a gap. And B, even if you do manage to get it really well lined up, you will still see the line in the tape. So rather than faffing about with that, what I did was, I've got these address labels, shipping labels, but they're really big. So on this one, you get 4 labels to an A4 sheet. So that gives you plenty of real estate for die cutting and stuff. So all I did was took a bit of Pritt stick over one of the labels, like so. Now, you won't want to put your gilding flakes into this because there's a bit much of it. It's a bit gloopy. You'd end up with just a goopy mess on your brush and a big glob of gilding flakes. But what you can do is, in fact, we'll do it the other way. you can take your piece of cardstock, layer that onto your label and give that a good rub. Burnish it with your bone folder. Now, when you peel this off, your label is stuck firmly to your piece of card, nice and flat, but you've now got this lovely sticky but smooth surface from the Pritt Stick. So again, now I can take my gilding flakes and I can pop some of those onto this surface. Ooh, if I can get them off my fingers. And again, taking my nice stiff brush, I'm just going to start working these into the label and keep popping this down and working it in until the whole thing is covered. And you do want the whole thing to be completely covered, because otherwise obviously you've got sticky bits still exposed, and when you go to run that through your die cutting machine, you end up with bits sticking to your die cutting plates, and you just end up in all sorts of a pickle. The other thing that I would say is once you've done this bit and you've got it covered, make sure that the Pritt Stick is dry before you start to try and die cut it, because again, it just makes it a bit harder to actually do the die cutting if the Pritt Stick's still wet. The die doesn't want to go through it as easy. So there we go. So again, I'm just going to tap back in all my excess, sweep up as much as I can so that I'm, wasting as little as possible, because I'm sure these things probably aren't cheap if you buy them from the craft shop. But you can see I've still got more or less a full jar, and I've done 2 sheets of this, I've done 2 backgrounds, I have used these before as well, and like I say, I didn't even buy it new, I bought it from a charity shop, so there is tons in there. And I'm trying to be really good and really brave and stop hoarding my lovely craft supplies and actually use them. So again, I'm just going to go round now and give that a really, really good firm brush over, and make sure that any areas of the label are completely covered with those gilding flakes, so that we haven't got any sticky bits still exposed. You can go over that with a soft cloth as well, and that will buff it up even more. But isn't that beautiful? I just absolutely love all the colours that come through in this Harvest Moon. I love it, absolutely beautiful. And then, like I say, I would leave that for an hour or so, half an hour maybe, and just let that Pritt Stick completely dry before you die cut it. But then you can just run it through your die cutting machine as normal, and it die cuts out beautifully. I've also cut one out in black because I want it to have that slight sort of drop shadow. And in order to get that drop shadow effect, all I do is obviously a bit of glue on the back of the die cut, trying to sort of get a bit on each area so that we can get it to stick down effectively. There we go, like that. Now we're going to take our black piece there, and I just drop mine slightly down and to the right. When I've got it where I like it on those top ones, I can then sort of pull everything else into that same alignment, and you just sort of mess about with your setting until, and using the wet glue just means that you have got just a few moments before that starts to set to get that where you want. And just that little bit of the drop shadow just helps it to stand out a bit more from the background, and helps the sentiment to be seen a little bit more. So I'll just move this out of the way. So the other thing that I've then got are my 2 smaller panels that my poppy and my sentiment sit on. You can see how messy my desk is getting. Now to do this, I've just got a script stamp. Take my sentiment stamp off. You can see that I've been stamping before. So all I'm going to do is line up my stamp like so, and I can sort of see, because there's a bit of ink still left on it, where the stamp is. And I'm going to just line up my piece here. Now, I'm not bothering to put the magnets on this to keep it down, because I don't care if this is completely perfect or not, because this is just a bit of texture in the background. I'm using the Antique Linen Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just inking up my scripty stamp, and I'm going to just gently, so that I don't sort of squish the stamp and distort the image, and just give it a few seconds so that the ink can absorb from the stamp into the paper. And there we go. And as you can see, it hasn't stamped perfectly there. I don't mind. That's okay. Like I say, this is, you know, this is a backer piece, and this is just to give it that interest and a little bit of texture. And it's almost tone on tone, because it's the antique linen on a sort of creamy ivory cardstock. It's not white, it's not pure white cardstock. And then I've done the same for the little one that the sentiment is going to sit on. So I'm going to take that stamp off. Right, now I've got my card base. So that's how it's going to open up. So I want to stamp in here the sentiment for the centre of my card. So I do want my magnets on this time. So I'm just going to line up my little sentiment. So I've just got thinking of you, and I'm going to pop that in where I want it. Oop. I'm going to bang the camera because it's my favourite thing to do. Make sure that's reasonably straight. I'm not standing, so who knows, it could be completely skew-if and I wouldn't know. And now I'm going to ink up my stamp. This is just it came from a magazine set, I think, this Thinking of You. So it won't stamp beautifully because it's just an acrylic stamp, but I find that as long as you've got a stamp press, that's fine, because you can just keep going until you're happy with it. This paper is quite porous, so it does sort of soak the ink up and slightly blur the image, but I don't mind that. I think it looks okay. So there's that one. And the other little bit of stamping that I want to do on this one is with this. So this is my poppy stamp. It's a old foam, I don't even know where I got this from. I've had this since the blinking dawn of time, I think. But it actually stamps really lovely, and it's sort of got a lot of shading and everything. So I'm just putting a bit of scrap paper underneath there, and I'm going to stamp that on the inside of my card, like so. I've got a little smudge, pants, not to worry, that will be fine. Now, I can watercolour, because I've used put my teeth back in, Memento. I can watercolour, so I've got a little bit of candied apple, so I'll just put a little bit of that on my craft mat, pick it up with a paintbrush with a little bit of water, and just drop that colour in like so, and the same here. So, and because it's the Memento, it won't bleed or anything. It'll just stay put. So that's that. Obviously, I normally take a little bit longer over my painting, but as you guys are with me, I will do it quite quickly. Okay, I've also then got some of the aged mahogany. Again, just putting a little bit on my craft mat and picking that up with a little bit of water. I can add just a bit of shadowing and shading in at the bottom, and then I can do the same with green. I tend to use the bundled sage and the peeled paint. So I will finish that later off camera so that you don't have to watch me watercolour those little bits in, and just pick those up so we don't end up with it all over the back of the card. And we will carry on with the front of the card. So we've pretty much got all the elements together now. So first things first, I want to pop my black base down onto my card. So I'm just going to get a little bit of double-sided tape, like so. Like so. Okay, and then I'm just going to line that one up on there. Now, before I put this one down, I like to give everything a bit of a border so that it pulls your eyes in slightly. I didn't want to put gold because I thought with the Harvest Moon there's quite a lot going on anyway. So I just took a little bit of vintage photo on a sponge applicator and just went round the edge like so. And I think that just makes your eyes stop at the edge of that paper. You're not your eyes aren't roaming looking for where they need to stop looking. On the edge of these pieces with the script, I've got a gold Posca, and I'm just gonna go around each edge again, just because it gives it that border, and it helps the eyes to focus on the bits that you want it to focus on. Okay. There we go. So what I'll do is I'll just pause the camera and I will get tape and that all on the back. I will layer down the first few bits of cardstock, and then we'll come back and we'll start to pop everything together. Okay, so I have glued down the black layer, the jelly print layer, and I have glued down this layer here. I've also popped some reasonably thinnish cardboard on the back of this layer so that one can be popped up ever so slightly. So we will stick that one down. A little bit of wet glue just helps with the wiggle room so that it doesn't grab immediately, and also the tape will give up after a while, and I know what my nannies are like. They will all have these up in their rooms until kingdom come, so they've got to be made to last. I'm then just going to put a few dabs of the wet glue here and there on the back of my sentiment, again making sure that it's going to stick down where I want it to. Here we go. There you go. And then I'm just going to pop that wherever I want it within my square. I'm just going to move that one slightly. A squiffy M. Nobody wants a squiffy M, do they? There we go. So that's my sentiment in place. So now I've just got to lay down my poppy. So obviously the first thing I'm going to start with is the stem, and I'm going to get that sort of lined up where I want it on my card. And I am only sticking down the stem and just a little bit of that leaf. I'm not sticking down the poppy head, and I'm not sticking down the bit where the bottom poppy is going to sit. I'm going to sit this on the panel like so. I'm not pushing down on that poppy head because I don't want to flatten it. put all that shape into it. I don't then want to just flatten it out, like so. And then I've got my poppies and my leaves. So with one of my poppies, I am going to just sort of fold it more or less in half. I tend to find that if I just grab it with my reverse tweezers, I give it a bit of a squeeze. And that is what I'm going to sit under here. And to do that, I am going to use a little bit of hot glue. So a bit on there and a bit on the head of the poppy. And I'm going to push that into this little space that I've made in the greenery, so that it looks like that's a poppy bud just opening up. And then on this one, I'm just going to put a nice blob of glue on the centre of the poppy head, and I'm going to place that at the top of this stem so that you can just about see that leaf still. And in fact, I'm going to just pop that leaf out from under the poppy so that it sits just on top of the poppy head there, like so. And I've got my couple of little leaves. Again, I'm just going to put a bit of hot glue just towards the top, because I do want to keep the movement going in this one. I'm just going to use my poker tool to lift that leaf up, that petal up, sorry, and I'm just going to push that up and in. And then this bottom one, again, just a little bit at the top there, and I'm just going to tuck that up and under our opening poppy head. And then a couple of final sort of finishing little touches. I've got a tub of really small black seed beads. I think they came, I think I got it was a necklace or a bag or something that had got hundreds of these on. I can't remember. And I remember I bought something from a charity shop and I split it up. And got a tub full of beads, and it cost me about 20p. So I used them in lots of things, although I'm getting through them now. So all I'm going to do is put a nice blob of white glue in the centre of both elements of my poppy, in both my poppy heads, and then I'm just going to push some of these beads down into it. If I don't think I've got enough, I'll just add a few more, and again give them a bit of a push. Now don't forget, your glue will dry clear, so if you do get any gaps, it'll dry clear and all you'll actually see is the black cardstock underneath, so it's not the end of the world. And then again, I'm just going to tap that off back into my little jar, release those ones because they're not in the right place. And I'm just going to push those over and in. And that one. Like that. Beautiful. And then the final thing is I've got these 3 lovely big flat back pearls. I got them from AliExpress. And I'm going to, just with a little bit of white glue, I'm going to pop those down the side here to finish off my card. And just one in the centre. And there you have it. Obviously I need to just let that dry, and let my centre poppies dry, and let my pearls down the side there. I have painted the inside completely now, so that is another one finished. So I'll bring the other one in because that one's obviously needs to go off to one side to dry. So this was the card that we made, and you can see that once those seed beads are dry, they are stuck in there really well. And so if I can get that in the camera, you get a really nice sort of textured centre to your poppy, which I think is really lovely. So that's how you can take this really simple die from NBEADS and turn it into a really beautiful dimensional card. And obviously you could use this for any occasion, and with Poppy Day coming up, it's a nice one to send to people, and I'm just sending it as a bit of a hello to my nannies. So I will leave the link to NBEADS. This was really, really cheap from NBEADS. And if you haven't seen my haul, do go and have a look. I got a vast amount of stuff for under £25. Absolutely huge amounts of stuff. So do go on over and check that out. This, I think, was around about £1. £1.50, something like that for this die. And I've created this really beautiful element with all that dimension to go on this card. And obviously, if you didn't want quite so much dimension, you don't have to put the bud on the side there. You could just put 2 poppies that way, and that would keep it down. Or you could even just do them completely flat, and then it would go for the price of a stamp. So that's it from me for now. I hope you've enjoyed this quite long process video of how I've put together this beautiful card and how I made my gorgeous, gorgeous poppies. I'll leave the links in the description box below for NBEADS and for this particular die. Come back soon to see what I create next time. So that's it from me for now. I'm going to clean my messy craft room up, and I'll see you all again very soon in another crafty video. Bye for now.